Hi, everybody, and welcome. We're going to give it about a minute to 2 minutes just in time for everybody to be able to get into the webinar today, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the offering a retirement plan. Hope everyone is having a good day today. Give it about one more minute just to give time for everybody to get into the webinar today. All right. Well, welcome again, and thank you for joining us for today's BBB Learning Lab webinar, offering a retirement plan for your employees, featuring Union Bank and Trust. I am Jenny Tukeski, the Programming and Communications Manager here for the Better Business Bureau of Midwest Plains. Before we get started, just a few housekeeping notes for you. We are recording today's webinar, and this is just to continue to provide valuable educational resources during this time, but then also for the future, not only for you, but for other business leaders and owners as well. Also, within 24 to 48 hours after the webinar, we will send a follow-up email to you with a link to this webinar for you to view for future reference, and then also the presentation materials. Also, if you have any questions, please go ahead and leave them in the chat, and we will make sure that we get to all the questions by the end of the presentation today. So with that, we will go ahead and get started. Offering a retirement plan can help your business attract top talent, improve employee retention, and support long-term financial well-being. In today's webinar, you'll explore retirement plan options for businesses, including how they work, what they cost, and how to choose the best fit for your team. Whether you're offering a plan for the first time or enhancing an existing one, this session will provide the knowledge and tools to help make informed decisions for a more secure future. It is our pleasure to introduce Stacy Gutschenreiter, Vice President of Retirement Plan Services at Union Bank and Trust. Stacy works with the businesses to design retirement plans that meet the company's goals while supporting employees' financial success. A graduate of the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, she is actively involved in local nonprofit and industry organizations and enjoys golfing, traveling, and spending time with her family. So welcome, Stacy. It is all yours, and I'll turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Jenny. And thanks everyone for attending today. As Jenny shared, my name is Stacy Gutschenreiter. I'm the Vice President in Retirement Plan Services here at Union Bank and Trust. As Jenny alluded to, this session is really designed to help business owners and decision makers understand their retirement plan options available to their companies. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about advantages of retirement plans, the type of plan offerings, implementation, and considerations you need to make when you are looking at retirement plan providers, and then any key compliance or risk issues as well. So let's begin by looking at why employers are choosing to offer a retirement plan. Oh, no. Sorry about that. So we're going to talk today about 4 different areas. The first we'll discuss is the value of retirement plans and what that brings to both you, the employer, and the employees. And then next we'll review common retirement plan options for businesses and their characteristics. Then we'll talk about implementation and best practices, and then how do you get started to make it successful, as well as compliance considerations. I have to read this to you. This is just an important disclaimer. Today, the information that you're receiving from us is educational in nature. It is the understanding that Union Bank and Trust Company is not providing legal, accounting, or tax, investment, or other professional advice. Accordingly, if you were to try to receive some sort of investment advice, we ask that you reach out to a qualified advisor for assistance in doing so. All right. Really, before we transition, the impact this impact beyond extends beyond retirement savings and how you can influence the overall culture of the company. So next, we're going to talk about why it's important to have a retirement plan. So a strong retirement plan can help strengthen your employee brand itself. It helps position your company as an employer of choice. And then oftentimes employees will view retirement benefits as evidence that the organization cares about their future and their future in retirement. There are some automatic, oh, so sorry here. My bad. I'm not on the right slide. So first of all, we're going to talk about employee well-being. So retirement plans are increasingly viewed as a core employee benefit. They can support recruitment and then also retaining a skilled workforce. They also offer business owners valuable tax advantages while helping employees prepare for retirement. So let's take a look at the specific benefits in more detail. So there is no one size. Okay, so next we're going to talk about how to enhance employer branding. So you're going to be able to enhance your employer branding by improving how the employees view you as a company. It helps attracts candidates, and it also builds credibility with clients and partners. It also strengthens the employee commitment. So retirement plans oftentimes will lead to fostering trust and loyalty with your current employees because you're investing in their future. And this can be done by offering an automatic enrollment feature, which is where an employee would be automatically enrolled in the retirement plan, and then also just offering flexible plan design options to help reduce their savings gaps. We definitely want to consider how you're going to align your business, or how you're going to align your retirement plan with your business goals and objectives. So we want to make sure that you're tailoring the plan based upon your workforce demographics. So that could mean you might want to make the eligibility for the plan so that anyone can participate. So you can vary it by age and needs, and then offering the flexibility within the plan. And then also integration with other benefits. So it's super important that your retirement plan integrates with retirement readiness. So you want to make sure that your employees are saving enough for retirement and that they're on track. And then it also should align with your financial wellness goals. So if you have a financial wellness program, you definitely want to integrate that into your program. And then if you also offer a high deductible health plan that has an HSA component, you definitely want to consider incorporating that into the education as well. And then most importantly is effective communication. We really want to make sure that your employee understands the retirement benefit and what you provide to the employee. So oftentimes we really love or enjoy lingo within our space. So we just want to make sure that your employee understands what the matching formula is. We want to make sure they understand what the savings gap is, if there is a savings gap. So we just want to make sure that there's effective communication that goes with the plan. Okay, so really, it's also important that the retirement plan stays competitive and that there's some tax benefits in there, and that also will build employee loyalty. Oftentimes, you need to review the costs associated with starting a retirement plan, the complexity, and then what that administrative burden might be to you, the employer. And then also there is the regulatory compliance piece or component. Those are some major concerns that you need to think about when implementing a retirement plan. And then just making sure you have careful planning process when you're starting the plan. Make sure you're working with an experienced provider. And then make sure that the plan design offers an automatic enrollment feature to help overcome some of those challenges of employees wanting to save for retirement. Now we're going to talk a little bit about those most common types of plans available, and we'll break that down in more detail. So there is different retirement plans designed for different businesses, and there are some key considerations to consider, including company size, what your budget is going to be, what the workforce demographics are going to be, and what your administrative preferences are. So we're going to talk in more detail about the traditional 401k, the safe harbor 401k, and then the simple IRA. So this first one is the traditional 401k. So this is the most common among employer-sponsored plans. It's available to any business, including tax-exempt employers. Employees can make a salary deferral contribution from their payroll. And then the employee can contribute based upon some guidelines that you can put together. So these guidelines below may be less, but it cannot exclude any of the following individuals. So anyone that is 21 years of age, completion of 1 year of service and 1,000 hours. And then you can exclude part-time employees, but there are some special rules that apply if you were to exclude part-time employees from the plan. And then the most important thing is the limits, the IRS limits that are set each year for a retirement plan. So an employee can defer right now in 2026, $24,500 per year. They can also give a catch-up contribution if they're over the age of 50, and they can defer an extra $8,000. And then if your age is 60 to 63, you can contribute a catch-up contribution of $11,250. So it's not in addition to the $8,000. So the $8,000 is for anyone over the age of 50, but that 60 to 63 gives them an opportunity to defer some additional dollars at that time. Next, we're going to talk in more detail about what the employer can contribute and what the tax benefits are. So employers can contribute up to 25% of their eligible payroll. And then the tax benefits that go with that, an employer contribution is deductible to you, the employer. So any match contribution or profit sharing contribution that you give is a deduction for the employer. The employee contributions are not subject to FICA taxes. And then the deferrals are pre-tax or they can be tax deferred, which is a Roth option. And then the earnings on those contributions are not taxed to the employee until they distribute them from the plan. And then just a couple of caveats with distributions. There is a 10% premature distribution penalty if you were to take it before age 59 and a half or the normal retirement age within the retirement plan. And then you must begin distributions at age 73 or 75, depending upon your birth. And what that is called a required minimum distribution. So you would have to start taking distributions at those ages if you haven't started already. Next, we're going to talk about safe harbor 401k plans, and those are very much like a traditional 401k plan, but it must provide employer contributions. And those contributions that you give to the employee have to be 100% vested. And vested is ownership in the plan or ownership of those dollars. So in a traditional 401k plan, there's a vesting schedule that's typically tied to the match contribution. And if an employee leaves early or leaves before the vesting schedule is 100% vested, then they only get to take a portion of that money with them. But with the traditional 401k plan, those employer contributions are always 100% vested. It allows the employers to automatically satisfy some discrimination testing. And then there are specific rules that apply to contributions. There can be no allocation conditions within those employer contributions, and an allocation condition is they have to be employed on the last day of the plan year or work 1,000 hours. And again, we talked about vesting. The vesting has to be 100%. And then there are employee notices that you have to give every year. With the safe harbor plan design option, it does eliminate the annual testing requirement of ADP and ACP. ADP is the average deferral percentage test. So those two tests are required typically in a traditional 401k. So with the safe harbor, they automatically pass the ADP and ACP testing requirements. It allows maximization of deferrals for highly compensated employees. And a highly compensated employee is anyone that is a 5% owner or greater or makes over $160,000 this year. And then it also relieves the plan from what's called a top-heavy testing with certain plan design considerations. Next, we're going to go into what those safe harbor employee contribution formulas are. So there are 3 formulas. One is the basic match, one's the enhanced match, and then one is the non-elective contribution. So the basic match formula that is required is 100% match of the employee deferrals up to 3% of compensation, and then a 50% match on the next 2. So basically, an employee would have to defer 5% to get a 4% match. So that's one formula. The next formula or option is an enhanced match, and that is a matching contribution that is at least as generous as the basic match. So the lowest would be 4%, and the example would be 100% match on deferrals up to 4% of their annual compensation. And I give the example in more layman's terms is it's dollar for dollar up to 4%. So an employee, if they defer 3%, they'll get 3% of their compensation. If they defer 4%, they'll get 4% of their compensation. But 4 is the minimum that an employer, that's the minimum formula that an employer has to give. And then the last one is the non-elective contributions. So this is for all employees, including employees who not defer. So this is where you're just giving them a 3% contribution of their compensation. So of those 3 different formulas, you pick which formula you would like to give your employees. And then that allows you then to pass that ADP and ACP testing that we talked about in the last slide. Again, as I shared, safe harbor contributions are always 100% vested, and then there's no service conditions, and we briefly talked about that. So sometimes you can put a last day rule where they have to be employed on the last day of the plan year, or an hours requirement. In this case, you cannot have either of those as an option when you're giving the safe harbor contribution. And then lastly, there is a notice explaining what the safe harbor provisions must be, what the safe harbor provisions are. That notice has to be given to eligible participants 30 to 90 days before the start of each plan year, and then it's always in the new hire packet as well. The last retirement plan that I'm going to talk about is the Simple IRA. And the Simple IRA is a nice option for small businesses, and it's really geared towards those that have 100 or fewer employees. And they can't offer any sort of employer-sponsored retirement plan in addition to the Simple IRA. So the Simple IRA has to be a standalone and the only retirement plan option. Participating employees must have earned at least $5,000 in pay from your business in any 2 preceding years, and is expected to earn at least $5,000 in the current year to be eligible to participate in the Simple IRA. And then this is of note: an employer can choose a less restrictive participation requirement, which means you can exclude or get rid of the $5,000 in pay. And then you just let everybody participate in the plan. So who contributes the funds? So for sure the employee does. The employee contributes funds. They can contribute pre-tax deferrals and take advantage of that tax savings. And then they also are allowed the Roth option as well. And with the Simple IRA, there are different IRS contribution limits. So an employee of any age can defer up to $17,000 for this year in 2026. And then if an employee is over the age of 50, they can defer an additional $4,000. And then if they're between that age 60 and 63, they can do an additional $5,250. And then it's always important to note, and this is for both Simple IRAs and 401ks, but there is typically a cost of living adjustment each year. So that those limits should increase every year in some form or fashion. Next, I'm going to talk about what the employer has to contribute. So an employer will choose between a couple formulas. One is dollar for dollar match contribution up to 3% of compensation, or they have to give a non-elective 2% of compensation. So those are the two different matching, or not matching, but employer contribution options available. And then most Simple IRA plans will put together an investment lineup of mutual funds that are low cost. And then obviously a participant can make investment transfers or allocation changes at any time within their own Simple IRA. Next, we're going to just talk in more detail about the implementation and best practices. So it is super important to make sure you are selecting the right plan, but then also it's important to make sure that you think about the implementation, the communication, and the ongoing support that you're going to receive from your 401k provider. And then also it's making sure that we can ensure the employee understand why the benefit is so important and the key factors that drive the success of the plan. So first, we want to make sure that we start by identifying clear goals for the plan and determine whether those objectives, what those primary objectives are from the employer's perspective, whether that be retention, recruitment, owner savings, and then employee financial wellness. So next, you would want to make sure that you're selecting the appropriate service provider. And so it's super important when you're looking at that, you choose a provider based on industry experience, low cost investment offerings, the total cost to administer the plan, and then the technology platform that they are using for the employer and the employee. In addition to that, it's really important that your provider also include employee education meetings. We want to make sure that you're communicating this benefit clearly to all employees. And then also, as an employer or plan sponsor, you want to monitor the investments and the plan performance at least quarterly. So your provider should help you with that as well. And then we also want to look at those fiduciary duties. So if you are a plan sponsor that is offering a 401k plan, there are some fiduciary duties and responsibilities as a plan sponsor. And that is to make sure that you're acting in the best interest of the plan participants and ensure that there's prudent investment oversight on the mutual funds that you're putting into the plan. And then also there's definitely some key compliance tasks and governance that you have to make sure that you are doing with the help of your provider. One is timely filings, timely payroll deposits, accurate record keeping, and make sure that the proper disclosures are given each year. And then also just make sure that you're establishing regular training for your retirement committee to ensure that if you were to get audited for any reason, you have documentation showing that you are learning what your fiduciary responsibilities are as a plan sponsor. Next, we're going to talk about the best practices for long-term success of the retirement plan. So ongoing employee education is very crucial. We want to make sure that your provider is giving you on-site meetings, one-on-ones, tools and calculators so that they can understand what they need to be doing to save for retirement. Oftentimes, you'll have a dedicated educator that would be assigned to your plan and would come out and do those meetings on site or virtually. Lunch and learns, there's different ways that you can do the employee education. And then also, as a plan sponsor, you really want to make sure that you have regular plan reviews, whether that be quarterly, semi-annual, or annually with your providers. And within those plan reviews, you want to make sure that you're reviewing your fees that you're paying. And there could be an asset-based fee, but there also could be an investment fee. So we want to make sure that you're diving into how much the average weighted expense ratio is of those investments. You also want to look at the performance and then the service that you're receiving as well. And then most importantly, it is pretty important to make sure that your plan adapts with your evolving workforce. So maybe the plan that worked when you had 5 employees may not work when you now have 100 employees. So it's just important to make sure that you consult with your providers and do periodic reviews to make sure you are adjusting the plan design the way you want it to work in the future. That is what I have to offer today for you. I want to thank everyone for their time and their participation. We'll obviously answer any questions and have discussion. And if there is any specific business cases that you want to discuss, I have my contact information there on the last slide. And then I just always like to remind people that retirement plans are customizable and they can be tailored to support you, the plan sponsor, but also the employee so that they're saving enough for retirement. And lastly, a well-designed retirement plan can be one of your most valuable investments as an employer for your employee. So thank you.
Thanks, Stacy. The first question I have is in regards to the cost. If somebody is just starting out in regards to setting up, a retirement plan for their employees, what cost should they expect when first starting up?
Yeah, so depending upon if you're providing a simple IRA versus a 401k, but a simple IRA, typically it's just an asset based fee. And I'm speaking on behalf of UBT, but there would be a small asset based fee that would be taken out of each participant's accounts for the administration of the simple IRA. But you also need to look at the investment offerings and make sure they're low cost investments and there's no like trailer or reoccurring fees. So we call those 12B1s or sub-TA fees. And then for a retirement plan, depending upon if you're just starting a retirement plan, we charge a flat annual asset-based fee. And then we would offer low cost investment options. And oftentimes you might have multiple providers, but with Union Bank, we do all the servicing and don't outsource anything. So oftentimes you might be working with an advisor, you might be working with a third party administrator, and then you might be working with a record keeper. So there could be charges from all three of those individuals. So you just want to make sure you have a really good grasp and understanding on what you're paying and what you're getting for those payments. Did that answer your question?
It did, thank you.
Yeah.
Um, so on your side of things, what are some questions or common questions that employees usually have about their retirement benefits?
Well, oftentimes employees don't even understand the benefit. So that's why I really spoke and harped a little bit on the education and compete piece or component. So some common questions might be like, what is the match formula? Am I saving enough for retirement? You know, oftentimes there's tools and resources available on websites that'll give like a estimated projection on how much they're saving. And then, so they want to know, am I saving enough? So there are definitely those pieces, but then there is also common questions regarding a Roth versus a traditional deferral. So they want to know the difference between what Roth is versus like pre-tax or traditional. So those are like some top, 3 or 5 questions.
Gotcha. If there's a business who does not have a 401k yet, what are the first steps that they need to take in regards to offering their retirement plan?
Yeah, they would want to definitely seek out advice from either a provider or an advisor. In my case, you would just reach out to me direct, and then we would walk through together the difference between the 401k and the simple IRA, especially if you're a small business and not sure on like the administrative side of things. If you have a key individual that can help with the administration of the 401k, oftentimes small business owners are wearing multiple hats. So the simple IRA option might be a better fit at the beginning, but then as the plan grows, you can then roll that money into, or not roll, but you would cease the simple IRA and then move to the 401k for maybe some other reasons. Maybe the owner now wants to maximize the IRS limit and wants to defer more. So they want to open a safe harbor 401k. So there's definitely pros and cons to both. So what I do is I have a chart that I use that compares the two products.
Gotcha.
So that we can walk through them together and determine what is the best option for them at that particular point in time.
Perfect. And then do you have any type of like handout or sheet in regards to like what the IRS requires, or are there any specific type of requirements that they have for
There's
employers?
no requirements, but I do have a handout on those limits that I can send out. And then I can also send you the side by side comparison of the simple IRA versus the 401k.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we'll get all those handouts to you guys in that follow-up email as well. And then lastly, for business owners leaving the webinar today, and something to remember, what would you want them to walk away knowing right away?
Well, one, if there is interest and you feel like there is going to be a benefit to offering that, I just would ask, like, what are your business goals and objectives, and what do you want this benefit to look like for your employees? That's like number one.
Perfect. Thank you. Well, we thank you so much, Stacy, for sharing your expertise with us today and truly appreciate your time and the valuable information that you provided in regards to benefits and how important it is for employers to give that to their employees. So thank you. We also want to thank everyone for attending and taking time out of your busy schedules to come and learn about retirement plans and hoping to answer any questions that you might have had regarding how to start retirement plan benefit up for your employees, but also in regards to how you could possibly expand on what you're already having. Again, we will get a follow-up email out to you within the next 24 to 48 hours with the presentation information, the flyers and handouts that Stacy just discussed, as well as the taping of this webinar. We look forward to hopefully seeing you guys again soon at another Learning Lab webinar. And until then, have a wonderful afternoon. Take care.